Check out this absolute ridiculousness. Sanctuary City sending thousands of migrants back to Texas by plane or by bus. Huh. Yeah, that whole bring us your poor, bring us the illegals, don't care what shape or form they come in, you got to give them to us. That whole Sanctuary City thing. Well, they looked at the budget and they realized just exactly how many these hundreds of thousands would cost New York City. And you know what they said? Send them back. And that's what they're doing. Admittedly, on a smaller scale, but the whole Sanctuary City virtue signaling has come to an absolute grinding stop because the federal government isn't helping them out. Let's jump on into it. Here we go.
Historic influx of migrants crossing the border illegally. Governor Greg Abbott bussed and flew thousands of migrants to so-called sanctuary cities.
Now 13 Investigates is learning New York City is paying for some of them to come back. So our Kevin Ozebek, he is joining us now here in the studio to tell us what he's learning about this situation, Kevin.
Well, Eric and Elisa, just this afternoon, we spoke to New York Mayor's office, his staff, and they told us that they are paying to send thousands of migrants back to Texas. Now, the exact number of asylum seekers NYC has funded to fly to Texas is 4,507. Mayor Eric Adams' staff tells us Texas is the top destination. Again, the top destination for migrants as part of a relocation program they have that has been underway for months. The program works by interviewing migrants, and then those migrants choose where they want to go. New York City Hall also says hundreds of these migrants who have picked Texas arrived in New York as part of Governor Greg Abbott's Operation Lone Star. Now, a key component of Operation Lone Star has been that migrant busing program that has moved migrants from Texas border cities that were filled with asylum seekers to Democratic-run cities all across America. Now, since Abbott started that program in 2022, Texas has bused nearly 46,000 migrants, and that is to New York City just alone. So if you do the math here, New York City is sending 10% of the number of migrants Texas sent them. And now, of course, we have also reached out to Abbott's office for comment here, but so far, Eric, we've yet to hear back.
All right, Kevin, we know 13 Investigates reported that Operation Lone Star has not been cheap. So what are the numbers we're talking about here in dollars?
Yeah, whether you love or loathe this program, it sure does have a lot of money attached to it. Now, at the beginning of this year is when we saw that surge of migrants crossing the southern border. So that's when Operation Lone Star was in very high gear. Back then, 13 Investigates reported that nearly 125 million Texas tax dollars were spent moving migrants from April of 2022 through mid-January of this year. Of course, that number is higher now, but the number of migrants crossing in from Mexico has significantly slowed. And of course, there's also now the irony that New York tax dollars are being spent to send some of those people back here to Texas. Eric and Elisa.
You can't make these shenanigans up. It's like, I mean, it's literally who's on first. Who's on first? We don't really know. And these illegals are just a pawn in the game, right? Bring them on in. They're going to vote for us. Well, if they end up in Texas, here's one of my thoughts. A lot of these folks come from some pretty religious backgrounds, right? And you got a lot of folks coming from South America and Central America. They're religious by nature. Yeah, Venezuelans, you got that whole crime thing, and that country is all bets are off. Colombia, all bets are off. But even still, Venezuelans and Colombians, oftentimes, they bring with them a real religious aspect to their culture. They're not going to affiliate with the far left. They get into an environment like Texas, they may not vote blue. Blue is who brought them in. But if they are living in a culture, they're going to assimilate. They're going to do things that they did back home. They left that. They left their home environment to come here and get a better life for themselves, get a better life for their kids. One of my thoughts is down the road, they may not vote blue. Because that doesn't align with if they're religious at all, Jesus, whatever you want to call it, vast majority Jesus, right? They may not vote blue. That's just something that's out there. I just want to throw that out there because you're always thinking, well, they're bringing them in because they're going to vote for Democrats. Well, maybe that doesn't happen. Did we ever consider that? I mean, this whole thing here that I'm recording today is just, you want to use the word spastic because that used to be a word just like retarded that we could use, but you can't say that anymore. But this is just ridiculous. You know what I mean? It's just, all right, we're going to bring them in. We're going to get them across the border illegally. Texas is going to ship them up to New York City. New York City is going to send 10% back, maybe more. Who knows? And in the meantime, you just got taxpayers' dollars just going out all kinds of, 10 ways from Sunday, right? Texas spent $125 million in taxpayer money to move migrants to New York City. But New York City is sending them back. Governor Greg Abbott spent millions of dollars to bus and fly migrants to so-called sanctuary cities. But now 13 Investigates is learning New York City is paying for some of them to come back. Yeah, it didn't work out in New York City. Overrun. They're overrun. Their resources are overrun. Mayor Eric Adams, who is now under indictment. Yeah, because in my opinion, he spoke out and said, hey, this whole thing with the southern border, it's not working out. You need to stop the numbers from flowing. That probably wasn't a great thing for him to be saying as mayor of one of the biggest sanctuary city, the biggest sanctuary city in the United States. Chicago, pound for pound, is right in there. But you got knucklehead. You got Let's Go Brandon Johnson running Chicago. So I don't care what you say. That guy, he's got the crown for dunce boy, right? According to Liz Garcia from Mayor Eric Adams' press office, New York City has funded 4,507 asylum seekers to fly back to Texas. Who's on first? I'm not really sure. We don't really know. Hey, before we go any further, if you love this channel, consider supporting what we do here. We've got member, channel reasonabletv.com, $3.99 a month, $40 a year. 14-day free trial. Check it out. If you don't like it, no harm, no foul. Let's get back to this story. This story is a doozy because it's literally, okay, yeah, bring them in because we want them. Oh, yeah, too expensive. Ooh, good Lord, these people, they cost money. Huh. I mean, before the Biden administration didn't give a rat's ass, did they? No, did not care. Did not care. Just bring them in, bring them in. They're going to vote Democrat. Bring them in, bring them in. And we're going to help out the entire world. There's a lot of countries out there that are just absolutely disintegrating because oftentimes of poor political leadership, like we've seen in America the last 4 years. Yeah, so make that vote count. But you've got an issue now where sanctuary cities were begging for these folks to come to their community. They came. Governor Greg Abbott sent them. Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida, he sent them. And then, this publicity stunt that these guys were doing, it backfires because all of a sudden, Eric Adams, mayor of New York City, goes, wow, this is expensive. Our budget is busted. Oh, hey, let's get him on a plane and let's fly him back to Texas. Is it shocking? No, it's not shocking at all. Is it expected? Yeah. This is virtue signaling at its finest, and that all goes to plan until it doesn't, which is where we're at. And it's a terrible look for the current administration because this is all on them. We had record low illegal immigration into the United States, 45-year lows under Trump. And then under Biden, yeah, all bets are off. Just bring them in by the millions. It's all good. Bring them in by the millions. Give them a Costco-sized serving size, jumbo, family size. Just bring them in. Bring them in. A key component of Operation Lone Star has been the busing program that moved migrants from Texas border cities, Democratic-run cities across America. Since Abbott started that program in 2022, Texas has bused nearly 46,000 migrants in New York City alone, and I think 42,000 to Denver. I mean, it's in the hundreds of thousands that have been bused to these cities. And then all of a sudden, that's not working out. Can't do it anymore. Budget is only so big and the federal government isn't giving us any more money. That's where, the Biden administration would have to tell the American public, all right, yep. In addition to sending billions to Ukraine and Israel, we're going to send, billions to New York City and Chicago and all these other self-proclaimed sanctuary cities in self-proclaimed sanctuary states. And you know what the United States would say to that? There would be pushback, like there's pushback now, like how Kamala Harris can't answer the pushback. She just can't answer it because she doesn't have an answer. She's boxed in. If she says, well, this is what I would do, then the question comes up, well, why haven't you been doing it? And that's only if you answer, this is what I would do, meaning you would do something different that's already been done. So why didn't you do that back when you were in office as vice president if you win? Why moving forward would you change that up? She can't win. She's stuck. She is absolutely hosed. And then you bring in her verbal skills on top of it. It doesn't work out. She is not able to communicate. I mean, if you listen to one of her sentences and if you're going to vote for her, tell me with a straight face that she communicates well, that she answers a question straight up. Tell me that she does that. Because if you're not able to do that, why are you voting for her? And it comes down to, well, she's your gal. All right. Well, that's on you. Surge of migrants crisscrossed the southern border at the beginning of this year, so Operation Lone Star was in high gear. That's when I was down there, just after that massive peak, because I didn't get a chance to go down there in November and December. I wasn't aware of how extreme these numbers were till I started podcasting them. 302,000 illegals came across the southern border in December of 23 alone. December of 23 alone. I mean, the numbers are just absolutely mind-blowingly shocking. And now we're dealing with the cleanup, which is, well, it got to go somewhere. Fly them back to Texas. In the past, 13 Investigates reported that nearly $125 million in Texas tax dollars were spent relocating migrants. But you know what? People focus on that tax dollar being spent. That is an absolute genius bargain. And here's why. Because once you get them a $400 plane ticket, $500 plane ticket, $1,000 plane ticket back home, they're off your books. Genius. Absolutely. You don't have to pay for their babies being born. You don't have to pay for their health care. You don't have to pay for their food. You don't have to pay for their automobiles. You don't have to pay for their housing. You don't have to pay for their clothes. They're off your books. It's a one-time charge. $125 million, bargain. Genius. I mean, that's just straight up business, right? And then you got guys like Eric Adams going, oh, we need some federal money in here. In the federal government, Biden, of course, he's like, oh, what are we doing? Hey, there's no answer. You're on your own, sanctuary cities. That's been proven. On Tuesday, days after this story aired, Abbott's office sent the following statement from his press secretary, Andrew Malahirris. Border Czar Kamala Harris and the federal government continues to refuse to enforce federal immigration laws already on the books and do their jobs to secure the border, allowing record high levels of illegal immigrants, deadly drugs like fentanyl, which took my son Brennan. So, I've got a personal stake in this. Things would be much different had this not been an issue. I'm not saying my son would still be alive, but the fact that fentanyl has just flowed through a wide open southern border doesn't mean my life has gone the way I thought it would. You know what I mean? And I'm just sharing that with you. I can openly say, hey, my life has been turned upside down because of southern border policy by the current administration. That's fair. I think that's fair. You have one of your kids die, you get the hall pass. So I've got the hall pass. So Biden and co., you can answer to that. Tell me how you feel, right? Apologize to me and tell me that, this was done on purpose. All right. Whatever. While Harris called transporting migrants political theater, and they're doing the same thing themselves, until Border Czar Harris steps up and does her job to secure the border, Texas will continue utilizing every tool and strategy to respond to the Biden-Harris border crisis.